Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Kelly Hogan is a 10-plus year carnivore, founder of the popular Zero Carb Life site, moderator of the original Zeroing In on Health Facebook group, mother and teacher. Kelly has helped thousands of people over several years in the Zeroing In on Health Facebook group and personally used a carnivore diet to overcome her excess weight struggles, fix her fertility problems, and free herself from chronic dieting. Kelly has been a huge inspiration of mine along my carnivore journey, and I've always found her to be very modest, but extremely knowledgeable and practical with regards to carnivore. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Hey, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. And what an intro. Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Seriously.
Yeah, of course. So for folks who aren't familiar, Kelly, how did you find a carnivore diet and what made you take the leap into carnivore?
Well, I first went to very, very low carb for about the first 5 years of my journey, actually. And that came because at age 25, I was 262 pounds and was repeatedly finding myself at the doctor's office to get abscesses or boils, if you want to be more sexy about it. It was a frequent issue. So I would get cellulitis to the point that I could hardly walk at times. And my doctor finally, after glancing many of these spots on me, he finally said, look, we're going to do this until you likely die an early death because you have so much inflammation. He had not actually tested me for inflammation at that point, but he just knew that's what was causing this. And this was 15 years ago. I feel like he was pretty ahead of his time because he told me point blank, it's the carbs. You've got to cut out the carbs. And at that point, I had not been on podcasts. And 15 years ago, I probably hadn't heard of a podcast. And I didn't even know what a carb was. So I literally had to ask him, what are carbohydrates? And he explained it to me, gave me a little handout, and said, as long as you don't eat anything on this pamphlet, on the front side was all carbs, cereals and breads, pastas, potatoes, everything I really, really like to eat. He said, as long as you eat none of those foods, you can eat everything that's on the back side. And that was meats, eggs, and cheese. He had just a very few low carb vegetables there, but, and that's what I started out with. So for 5 years, I stuck with that. I found that the more vegetables I ate, which I never was, as a 262 pound girl, I have to say I really didn't ever eat a lot of vegetables. So that was not a major thing for me to give up. The potatoes, if you consider that a vegetable, that was tricky. But for the most part, I was okay with not eating spinach. It was the donuts that were more the challenge in the beginning and the cereal. But after 1 year eating that way, I had lost 80 pounds, and I have never had another abscess or boil in 15 years. And so that's what first brought me to realize that carbs were the problem was my doctor, Dr. Dunlap. He was awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what brought you from there to carnivore?
All right. So at the end of those 5 years, I, at that point, had lost 125 pounds. I looked the way I wanted to look and I felt the way I wanted to feel for the most part. So I wasn't getting infections, but I was exhausted. So Scott, in order to stay that way, I had to exercise a lot. Now remember, I still had some veggies in my diet and I was still eating sugar-free garbage. So if it was completely carb-free, if it said zero, I considered that zero carb. and I would eat it. So sugar-free Jell-O, I was like, oh, sweet, 0 carb. You know, this has been a while back. This is the first 5 years. I'm not proud. I was hungry because sugar-free Jell-O does not fill up a person. I constantly felt like I was having to restrict. I was focusing on more lean meats because I didn't really get it yet. So I still had some brain fog issues. And I was working out a lot to compensate for the fear I had, I guess, that I was going to gain it all back. And at the end of that 5 years, my thought was, I cannot do this forever. I can't do this forever. So even though I was getting the results I wanted, I just didn't see how it was sustainable. And that's when I started Googling, so I was familiar with the Atkins ladder. Like, how low on the ladder can you go? And I would say at rung number 1. I'd stayed really low, but can you get off the ladder? Can you just stay on the ground? And then when I started Googling, the very first day, one of the first links I found was a forum back in the day called Zeroing In on Health, which is now a Facebook group. But at that point, it was just journals. And some of them had been doing it at that point for a year or 2, which at the time seemed like, oh, they are long timers. They've really got some experience at this, of only eating meat. And these journals were packed full of photographs before and after, testimonials, and they were not exercising themselves to death. They were not starving. They were not eating lean meats. They were eating platefuls of fatty ribeyes, and they looked good. The meat looked good. I just wanted to be a part of this. So I announced to the group that day, after 5 years of very low carb, I want to be one of you. I want to be a 0 carber. And that's when I started. And that was October of 2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
So full 10 years now.
Yes. I just had my 10-year carnivorsary, however you say it.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. And a lot of people, paint a glossy picture of carnivore. I found carnivore and everything changed. Everything was better all of a sudden. But what challenged you along the way? Because, I feel like people encounter these struggles and these issues, and it's important for them to realize that everyone has challenges either mentally or physically along their carnivore journey.
Absolutely. So my parents were really supportive of the very low carb. They immediately saw me starting to look better and walk easier and, no more doctor visits. But as soon as you announce to your family, so I'm not going to eat any vegetables again, crickets, right?
Yeah.
No mom is excited to hear this ever. They were worried. So that's a challenge. You show up to family meals. I started this in October, so right around the corner was Thanksgiving. If you don't take at least 1 scoop of green beans, it doesn't go well. No one's happy with you. They were pretty convinced that I would end up sickly, feeling bad, and they were saying, how much more weight do you want to lose? They didn't understand at that point. I really wasn't wanting to lose more weight. I just knew I couldn't keep that up to stay where I was. So, dealing with your family being worried about you, that feels horrible. I'm really close with my family. They were not mean about it, but they were legitimately concerned. Another struggle was that I did gain weight for about the first 6 months. Oh, let me real quickly interject. I am very hoarse today. I'm a music teacher. And yesterday was my last day of work. I have done nothing but Christmas carol nonstop, 8 hours a day for a couple of weeks now.
Oh, no worries.
Pardon the raspiness. I sound like a smoker today. I assure you I'm not.
You sound fine.
Where was this going? Oh, yeah. For 6 months, I very slowly gained about 20 pounds. And that was a huge challenge. That was frightening to me at the time because I thought, I'm going back to how I was. I saw this as every single ounce that the scale would go up, I would panic in my mind and I would almost abort ship, go back to exercising, go back to restricting, go back to the very, very low carb chicken breasts. But I thankfully was a part of this really supportive group. Just relax. You look great. Show us pictures. I would take pictures, but you're fine. You look better than before. So I actually was looking healthier. Before, when I was very low carb and had lost all that weight, I can look back at pictures and see that my eyes look more sunken. My skin did not look as good. I just didn't look as healthy. So my parents couldn't deny that I was looking better. And they were actually probably pretty pleased to see that 20 pounds. I was not. But that was a challenge for me. And after 6 months, that weight did come right back off. But 6 months is not nothing. That's kind of scary as a woman that was terrified of becoming overweight again.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people come to me and say, I'm not losing weight on a carnivore diet. I'm gaining weight. What's wrong? What's going on? So I can see how, that would be an issue and a challenge for anyone, frankly. What happened next? How did you kind of overcome that, Kelly? What happened later on? Obviously, you look great now and you're very healthy. So things worked out, but walk us through what happened.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I first was looking for this, I forgot to mention this part, but it's a big detail in my story. As a woman, my cycle had stopped and I wanted to have a baby, to be pregnant. And it's awfully hard to get pregnant without a cycle. So I knew that something in my body was not healthy. And I think that was a big thing that helped me get through that 6 months. If it was all about getting skinny, I think I would have quit. But I really needed to see that sign of health in myself. And it did take about 6 months for my body to respond, to let me know, okay, good job. You're looking better. You're feeling better. Everything's working. And almost immediately, weight started coming back off. I lost that 20 pounds. Honestly, in about 6 weeks. So it took 6 months to gain it, about 6 weeks to lose it. And then I immediately got pregnant with my first child. So then I did gain it back, but in a really happy way. After the first baby, and I stayed zero carb. I've now had 3 children. My youngest is just 3 years old. My oldest is 8, and a 6-year-old in between. So I've stayed zero carb through all of those pregnancies and nursing the babies. Throughout 10 years. But I'd say the hardest part was that first 6 months when I really wasn't sure. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know this 20 pounds was going to come back off. I didn't know if it was going to turn into 50 pounds. When you're in that moment and you don't know where it's going, it feels terrifying. Looking back now, I think, what was the big deal? It was a silly 6 months, a silly 20 pounds. Then I was pregnant. Life is good. Fast forward, 0 complaints. But at that time, when your family is sort of frowning upon it and you don't have your cycle back and you are gaining and you don't know where it's headed, it feels very uncertain. But, 10 years down the road, I'm so happy I didn't quit. If I was still doing this low carb thing where I'm trying to just tide myself over to meals by eating bowlfuls of sugar-free Jell-O and huffing it on an elliptical machine every day and just choking down a little bit of green beans just to feel like I'm being healthy. I am so glad to not be living that life right now.
Yeah. A lot of people are. A lot of people are. And can you talk, I'm sure people are curious, what do you eat in a day now, Kelly, and maybe how has it changed over time? And let us into all the details. We want to hear about grass-finished, panda-massaged meat versus conventional beef, organs, supplements, fasting, all of it. How do you think about some of these issues?
Okay. So when I first started, my body was craving fat. And I guess it's because for 5 years, I didn't give myself a lot of fat. I was mostly eating very lean meats. So when I finally had permission from the zero carb gurus to eat the fat, and it's like it hit my lips and I was alive again and I craved it. So I would literally go ask the butcher for extra fat trims. And I'm not recommending that by any stretch. Again, this was the time period when I did gain weight, but I feel like I needed to, and that's just what my body was asking for. So I would recommend that you follow your body's desires there. Just really if you're craving it, have some, but just know that if you're really, really have starved yourself and you're hungry and now you're piling in fat, you really might gain weight for a little while, but I do think it's worth it and maybe necessary at times. I currently eat 1.5 to 2 pounds, closer to the 2, I would say most days, of beef. People ask if I'm against other meats, and I'm definitely not. I just feel like beef keeps me fuller longer. I like the taste better. It's just what my body likes. But if I go to someone's house and they're serving up pork chops, I definitely have a pork chop, or chicken, ribs. I'm really not too picky. It's just day to day. What I choose for myself is typically ground beef, burger patties. I either make burger patties. I call them my meat cookies. I don't know why. I just pick them up and eat them like it's a cookie, unless they're really, really juicy, in which case I eat like a normal person. But I enjoy my little meat cookies, and I typically do not focus on buying the world's most expensive meat. I like 80-20 or 70-30, or even, and I know this is where people are going to be like, are you serious? But yeah, McDonald's burgers, they're just beef, salt, and pepper. They don't add anything. At this point, even if you're against frozen meat, they don't even freeze it anymore. It's just fresh beef. So if you're on the go, if you're totally against it, don't have it. It's okay. I don't care. I don't work for McDonald's, right? But if you're on the road and you just want some beef with salt and pepper, I definitely would not be afraid to do that. I have eaten many a McDonald's burger patty through the years, and I feel fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great option for folks who are time strapped or traveling. And how about coffee, Kelly? I know you've talked about this a bit in the past, but where do you stand on that?
I've had literally years of zero carb without it, years of zero carb with tons of it, years with somewhere in between. So I've gone through long phases of many different versions of coffee use. And for myself, I honestly, for me, can't tell any difference either way. As far as my immune system, general health, happiness, it just so happens I do enjoy a hot cup of coffee in the morning. So I am currently having my hot cup of coffee.
Nice.
Yeah. And if it makes you feel lousy, I tell people it's your body. If you drink it and you have any negative symptoms from it at all, stop drinking it. If you drink it, you enjoy it and can't tell that it bothers you at all, you live once. I would say have a cup of coffee. Honestly, if I was able to eat and drink all of the things of the earth, including a donut, and felt wonderful, had zero health problems, looked my best, felt my best, I would probably be having a donut right now. But I couldn't. I didn't. I felt horrible. I looked bad. My skin was bad. I was breaking out. I was obese. I can't have the donut. I can't even have, well, I don't really want the green bean, but it didn't do me any favors either. So for me, I need to be zero carb, but the coffee works for me fine. So I keep the coffee.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And how about supplements, Kelly? Do you take any, or have you found any to be helpful?
No, I don't feel like I need any. I have told people it's not that I'm completely against supplements if you need them, as in like a medicine. Just like if I were to have a horrible headache, I would be open to the idea of taking Tylenol. But if I don't have a horrible headache, I'm not going to just take it preemptively. I am not currently having any issues that I need to resolve, so I don't take any supplements. I just look at them as medicine. If I thought I wish I was more alert, or I wish I could sleep better, I wish any of these things, I would try first to fix it with my diet. But if that didn't help, I would be open to the idea of medicinally finding a supplement that helped. I currently don't have any issues I'm trying to resolve. I sleep well. I feel great. I don't need a nap during the day. I feel happy. I feel like that is not considered as much as perhaps it should be in how a diet is working for you. Like, how do you feel about life? I feel really happy. I hear moms quite often. I know this has sort of like become almost a mom joke of closing the bathroom to go cry, or going in the shower. I just need a good cry. And, I laugh along, but I'm going to say it. I don't feel like that's normal.
Yeah.
We should all be needing to go have a good hard cry daily. I feel happy. And if that were to change, like I say, I would probably look at, do I need some more fat in my diet? Do I need some counseling perhaps? But I would be open to the idea of supplements. I currently don't feel the need.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And you make some important points about, life is tough, and if you're not feeling well, you need to take a second look at your health, I think. And how about fasting, Kelly? Is that something you've played with? I know a lot of the zero carb groups discourage it in certain ways, but it's becoming very popular. What have you seen around that, both with yourself and people you've helped in the group?
Well, I've seen fasting. In some cases, I've got a pretty good friend that's a zero carber, and she says that fasting has helped her that she was never able to lose weight. She is older than I am, and she says she doesn't know if it's from many, many more years of abuse to her body that requires this. I am currently in a pattern of eating a huge lunch of at least 1 pound of meat for lunch every day. And then for dinner, I eat however much more I want, typically close to another pound of meat. And then I don't eat again until lunch the next day. But it's not because I've put this rule on myself or I'm watching the clock. I'm just usually not hungry again. I think eventually hunger is, when you need food. Now, I say eventually because I have heard people who are still food addicts or who are still just very new to zero carbs say that they have no idea when they're hungry. And I get that. I remember in the beginning, I was always hungry. And so I would encourage them to just eat. If you're hungry, eat. But if you find that it's not working for you, I don't know. I hate to say it. I'm really not pro-fasting.
Yeah.
I think if your body is saying get some food, then go have some plain meat. Just eat meat. And I feel like the thing that throws people's hunger more is what they're eating. If they're eating meat covered in cheeses and sauces, or they're eating hot dogs and more processed meat, I think that can really throw off your hunger signals. But if you are just eating some plain beef, if you're not really hungry and your body doesn't need fuel, that just doesn't sound good. If you are actually hungry, then beef sounds wonderful. So I tell people, go eat some plain beef. If it doesn't taste great to you, you aren't really hungry. Come back in an hour or two. Try again. But if you're fasting just to be watching a clock, I don't know. That just feels really unnatural to me. To be ignoring what your body is saying. Either you're brain foggy and lacking energy, or your stomach is growling, or you just keep thinking about food. I think it's because your body actually needs some food.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to keep it simple. I really do. I think that some of the things that we have in our bodies and our brains are put there for a reason. Your body is screaming for fuel, so give it some fuel. In fact, give it so much that maybe you don't need to eat again for 12 hours. And if you don't feel hungry for 12 hours, that's awesome. Good for you. You ate a really solid meal and you were able to focus on life for 12 hours without thinking of food. And that happens. I have no problem with that. If you ate such a big meal that your body is not screaming for food for 24 hours, wonderful. But as soon as your body starts saying, I need some food, I would say eat.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset. I think intentionally restricting when you eat just doesn't make sense, and it's not sustainable long term. If you're not hungry, if you've eaten so much and you provided your body with the nourishment it needs that you don't need to eat a certain amount of time, then that makes complete sense. And lastly, Kelly, have you found you need to eat organs, or have you found people in the group, long-term carnivores, succeed more with or without organs?
Well, you get people who show up and say zero carbers need to eat nose to tail. They need to eat raw. They need to eat all salt, no salt. You get people who claim all different variations that a zero carber needs to succeed. But of those of us who have done it for anywhere close to a decade and some much longer, like the Andersons who have been doing this twice as long as I have, they don't go around eating any type of meat they don't like. So if you like the organs and they're accessible to you, if I was a butcher or something and I had all of that readily available, I would probably eat it, but I have no desire to go out and buy it myself. It's not something that I just think tastes better than a ribeye or burgers. I haven't seen any long-term zero carbers that claim it's necessary. Typically, the people that claim these things are necessary are people who started zero carbing like yesterday. All of these big ideas that all of these rules are required. You must go eat 1 time a day. You must never touch a salt shaker. You have to eat the brain and don't even cook it. It's like nobody who's doing this a long time is eating like this. That sounds horrible. And if I thought I had to eat a bunch of raw beef livers and brains all day, I probably wouldn't try. So that's what kind of annoys me about the people who put all these restrictions out there is, one, you haven't lived this long enough to know what you have to do. And number two, I think it's very off-putting to people who just want to have some burgers and steaks and bacon and live life without feeling like, a caveman. We're not all out there trying to be cavemen. I'm a mom and an elementary school teacher. I don't want to take raw beef hearts to school every day. That's just not where I'm wanting to go with this. If that is your gig, that's awesome. That is absolutely zero carb. Enjoy your meat. Enjoy it a lot because the rest of us don't really want to eat it. And I'd hate to see it go to waste.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's so valuable about your perspective, Kelly, is you've been doing this for so long. You've also seen thousands of people succeed and fail with this diet. And that was one of my questions, which was, what would you like to see changed about the messaging around carnivore that's going out to the masses right now, and especially with the recent popularization of the diet? What do you see as potentially harmful about the message?
Yeah, I do think it's gotten pretty complicated. You see people counting all these macros and making it sound like you need a degree. People say, could you please coach me through how to get started? And I laugh every time I get these emails, please, could you be my coach? And I'm like, well, I could sum it up for you very quickly. Go get some meat, eat it. Don't eat anything else. When you get hungry, go get some more meat, eat it. Don't eat anything else. Have some water, and go enjoy your life. I don't have a lot more to complicate that. I would say, follow how you're feeling. Some people say, if you get leg cramps, you may have to tweak something, right? Like maybe you do need to change how much salt you're getting, or maybe for a little while you do need some magnesium. But I can't tell you what your body needs. If you are going to the bathroom all the time and having, more loose bathrooming issues, you're probably eating a little too much fat. I can coach that way. And vice versa. If you're having a hard time going to the bathroom, you may need a little more fat diet. Like there are some tips, but in general, I think let's make this as easy for people as possible. Eating an all meat diet in today's society, it's hard enough because you're walking past carbs all the time. Why make it sound so much more complicated? I think if people realize, I've literally had people say, oh, I can just get a fast food burger patty. Yes. If that's what you need right now, go get yourself some fast food burger patties, eat them. And then when you get hungry and you want to cook up a ribeye in your skillet, do that and then eat it. It just make it easy for folks. It's like you're finding a cure and everybody wants to somehow make us sound like we're geniuses for making this work and we're counting out macros and electrolytes. And no, I'm not. I'm just eating meat and it's the easiest thing possible. I would never charge someone for coaching services. It is that easy. No, judgment on those that do. But what are you talking about for so long? It's just eat your meat, live life. People ask, why do I not blog as much anymore? I've literally run out of ways to say quote, I'm still eating meat.
That's great.
I don't know how else to say that. I do think it's important that people hear zero carbers say, literally, quote, I'm still just eating meat, because folks starting out need to hear that. They need to see, you've been doing this a long time. I post my blood work on my blog every year. I do think people need to see that. I think they need to hear from people saying, no, seriously, even on my birthday, I'm still just eating meat, still feeling great. Pictures of, just pictures of humans eating this way so people can see their hair and their skin and just testimonials of how do you feel on a day-to-day basis. I think it's really important to say that, but at some point, you do start running out of new and creative ways to say it, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's where the community aspect comes in and is so valuable. And these groups where folks like you have volunteered their time and just been selfless about giving advice are incredibly valuable to people. And Kelly, how about some people are talking about if you eat a piece of dark chocolate, you're not carnivore, or having some cheese or maybe like a keto treat every once in a while, you're not carnivore. And I think, that makes a lot of sense for certain people who have to be abstainers, or certain people with autoimmune conditions. But what have you seen, and what do you think about the concept of being, 100% carnivore versus 90 to 95%? And one thing I always say is, the biological definition of carnivore is someone who eats any meat at all. But people use the word 100% carnivore to qualify, like if you eat any other foods.
Yeah, man, that's hard, because you're right. For some people, even little bits, it wouldn't matter how small it was. And I really think when I say some people, I really might mean me. I don't know. I have not toyed around with eating anything outside of the animal kingdom, but there's a reason for that. I know myself, and I feel like if I didn't consider myself 100%, and then I suddenly went out and felt, well, I'm just going to have this one cheat meal and get back to it, I don't know that I would. It's very rewarding for me to say that and to feel that way, not to go around as a means of like putting other people down, but just for my own self to feel like I've been very true to what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that consistency.
And it feels very much like a marriage for me. I like, obviously some people have different versions of how their marriage goes. There are open marriages, and that works for them. For me, I wouldn't be so much okay with that. It's very much just me and him. And I don't know. I think your personality and even your level of addiction to carbs comes into it. Now, if my husband and I were to have an issue in our marriage, would that suddenly mean we were never married and it's totally over? I think that's also what some people get into trouble with, is they've been zero carb. Let's say they've been super consistent for a year, and then, they blow it. Maybe they get drunk one night and they eat that dang donut, right? And now suddenly they feel like, it's over. My record is over. I might as well give it up. I blew it. Now I have to start over. I hear that a lot. Well, I'm starting over on zero carb. I'm like, you're not starting over. You're a year into this still. You did one thing, learn from it if you want to not do that thing again. And yeah, you're still 1 year carnivore. I don't feel like there's any need to hit some reset timer on it. You're still in that marriage, in other words. Your marriage had a bump up. You're still married. Get back to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that mindset, and really just, take it one day at a time and be the best you can be on any given day. And
I do have to give credit. I'm sorry to interrupt, but credit to Charles Washington was the first one I heard to start talking about your relationship with zero carb in a marriage type sense. And I think it really did resonate with a lot of people, as in, if you do mess up, It's not about perfection. It's about staying dedicated and committed to what you've committed to. But for most of us, we don't just go around purposefully cheating.
Yeah.
And so I don't look for that to be a loophole, in other words. But I don't think that messing up needs to necessarily mean you throw in the towel and that you are not married. Okay.
Yeah. It's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And through your experience in the group, Kelly, is there anyone you've seen for whom carnivore doesn't work so well long term?
Well, I see a lot of people quit who show up like I did, where they're already quite thin and they've already starved themselves. And when they gain any weight at all, those are the ones that are most likely to quit. If anyone sees the scale go up even a tiny bit, no matter how thin they were to start with, that they're most likely to throw in the towel. As far as if people stick with it for a while, I have seen some people literally take even a year to see results on the scale, but even they are, most of them will stick around because of all of the, what we call non-scale victories. They wake up, with less joint pain, or IBS symptoms are greatly reduced, or suddenly they no longer have the anxiety that's plagued them for years. I typically see, even when you say, well, they aren't succeeding, most people are only looking at a scale number, which I feel like is ridiculous in the grand scheme of your life. And as long as people see other victories and hang in there, the weight does eventually come off. If you have weight to lose, the weight comes off. I have, not trying to scare people, but I have literally seen that take a year. But if someone has completely fed themselves poorly for the first 40 years of their life and then expected to, that's not fair. If you're seeing any positive results at all and you're feeling good and, in general, your demeanor and your attitude, everything is better, a lot of folks do end up sticking with it. But boy, it's when that scale doesn't budge. That's what throws people. It's the scale.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of resilience and commitment, like you talked about earlier, to keep with it after that. And how about, have you ever had any sleep issues early in carnivore or seen others who do? Have you ever felt that, some people experience they need less sleep, but sometimes people think that's, having this very high cortisol with zero carb, and waking up early or waking up in the middle of the night. Have you ever experienced that?
I have not. I've certainly heard people say that, especially in the beginning, that their sleep is thrown off. I think more often than that, I hear people say that they sleep better. They just need less sleep. That's what I hear more and more, is that they need less hours in order to feel good, and that the quality of the sleep they get is improved. I feel like, honestly, I slept pretty great even on a standard American diet. I think I'm just blessed with being a good sleeper. So I still am. I don't have any trouble getting in 7. I typically just need 7 hours, but I also have a 3-year-old who wakes up pretty early.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. And how about, let's talk a little bit about carnivore for pregnancy. You talk about first your journey with that, and anyone you've seen in the group who's worked through that as well.
Nowadays we have people all the time showing up and saying, "Oh, I'm pregnant and I've been zero carb for a year. I'm so excited." And we're all like, "Wonderful." And there's no question, of course, they want to stay zero carb. Man, when I first found out I was pregnant, the pressure to stop this zero carb thing was pretty intense. Again, that was my 8.5-year-old. So that's been over 9 years when I first found out I was pregnant. It was scary. I did not know that Charlene Anderson had 2 zero carb pregnancies at that point. And it was kind of a new idea to me. I'm not saying, it's not like I was the first one to do it, but I didn't know anyone who had done it. Even on the zero carb forum, there had been huge discussions amongst low carbers versus zero carbers saying, this is absolutely not safe. You shouldn't do that. You need to add in vegetables. You need fiber. And it was kind of scary because I'd wanted a baby for so long, and you want to get it right. And thousands of people in your life who have had healthy babies eating carbs, but when you know none in your own life who have done it this way, that's intimidating. But then I did seek out and found Joe and Charlene and knew that they had 2 healthy boys and that she had had 0 carb pregnancies. And so I knew how good I felt. And I remember Charles saying, look, you're a human. Your fetus is also a human. You know how much better you feel. Why would you want anything less for this baby? He said, I don't think this is dangerous at all. I think it's probably the best thing you can do. And I really did. I felt peace with that. That felt right. So, and I am a very spiritual person, and I prayed about it. I felt solid about it myself, and I went for it. So 3 0 carb pregnancies went well. They are, well, I'm absolutely certain the cutest children on earth, and definitely the smartest too. So, or at least really close if they're not.
Yeah.
No, they are good, sweet kids. They are not 0 carbers completely themselves. They are low carbers. People already lose their minds when I say that they only eat very limited fruit and only the vegetables that they actually want to eat. They don't eat breads or grains. They don't eat any added sugar. So they've never had a cracker or candy. And, you know, there are folks who want to call the SS over it until they meet my kids. And it turns out the amazing thing is my kids don't want it at all. I have heard that before, that if you can keep the sugar away from kids for a while, that they don't develop a sweet tooth. You know, my oldest only being 8, we'll see how this plays out in the long term. But as of right now, they don't like the smell of it. If they even eat a fruit that is too sweet, they can't take it. They don't like it. Not even sweetened fruit, just a plain piece of fruit. So I don't know. You just asked about pregnancy, but that's where that pregnancy thing has gone. Now they're kids and they're really healthy kids.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was going to ask how your children eat. And how about your husband? Does he follow a similar lifestyle as well?
Oh, bless him. He does not. So he's never, he grew up being a skinny kid who is now a very average sized adult. He doesn't have health problems. He's only 37, so we'll see. I would say, you know, he edits my blog. He knows. He's read a lot. He knows how it's changed my life. If I suddenly went upstairs and announced that I was done with the 0 carb thing, he would probably be the first to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, you don't want to do that. So he is definitely a believer. He has seen me. You know, when he married me, I was a size 22, 24 wedding dress. So he definitely has seen me at all of these different stages, and he is a huge fan. He has never suffered himself with enough health issues or size issues to want to go that way. But when he does see weight creep up, he knows to cut out carbs some. And I think if he ever were to struggle enough with his own health, he knows it's an option. I'll put it that way. But you know, the man likes pizza and he's getting away with it for now. So there you go.
Yeah, that works. And it's good that he's supportive of you and supportive of the way your children eat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how about eating out socially, Kelly? How do you find the diet, you know, when you're going to parties and work events and out to lunches or restaurants? How have you found that?
I think that has gotten immensely easier over the past few years. So even though I do not consider myself keto, obviously I'm 0 carb carnivore. I hate to even say the word keto because we all know what that conjures. But if you were ever at a restaurant these days and you just want people to be like super cool with you eating a plate full of meat, throw out the word keto and no one bats an eye anymore. They're like, oh yeah, cool. Absolutely. So I'm really thankful for that. Yeah, you say carnivore and I don't know, they still think you want the potato, I think. Nobody really gets what that means. Like you said, technically, if you eat meat at all, you know, everyone's a carnivore for the most part. But, you know, I think if you just go to a restaurant and I don't I don't even pretend anymore. You know, some people say, well, I order the sides, but I just sort of pick around at them. I don't even want them on my side of the table. I don't even pretend that I'm going to mess around with a potato. So I just say, all right, tell me the best way to get a plate full of meat without anything else on the plate. And if you just ask them point blank, you know, they work there. They know. They can typically say, well, we can actually ring up a side of ribeye. Oh, well, wonderful. And sometimes they say, we still have to charge you for the sides. And I say, that's fine. I don't want them. I literally want a plate of meat. And they can make it work. Like I say, throw out the word keto and you're in.
Yeah. That's awesome advice, and sounds like you've mastered it over the years. And how do you feel about one thing that really frustrates me is this stigma around women needing to eat salads and plants, and that's the ladylike thing to do that you see in the media a lot, and all these pictures of women smiling and eating salads and drinking, you know, green juice. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I eat with a group of women every day that I absolutely adore. And a lot of them bring salads almost every day. That is, for the most part, what the table eats is salads. And there are some of them are on Weight Watchers. So I hear how many points they have, how many points is your salad, how many is mine. And meanwhile, and we all laugh about it now because they are great friends of mine and they have seen me through I've worked at the same place for 19 years. So they know.
Wow.
Yeah. They see me with my giant bowl of meat cookies that are sometimes covered in bacon grease if I'm craving fat that day, and piles of whatever meat I had in the fridge that morning. And they don't really know what to do with me, I don't think. Because while they're all beautiful women, they all they think about their weight a lot, I'll say. For whatever, you know, for good or for bad, they're very focused on losing weight. And I think you would be hard pressed in America to find a woman that is not focused on their weight. Don't you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of women and they're almost all focused on their weight. So I don't want it to sound like that there's anything weird about these women I eat with. I think they're very normal. It makes me sad, honestly. I like to dress very feminine. I like to fix my hair feminine. I'm a very feminine woman, but salads don't work for me. And I honestly get a huge kick out of eating a giant bowl of meat or a huge ribeye while everyone else is eating salads. And I really don't worry about my weight whatsoever anymore. I don't even weigh anymore. I don't even know currently. I assume I still weighed the same thing I weighed 10 months ago when I last stepped on a scale, which was the same as, you know, a year before that and the year before that. And it stays pretty much the same because I just eat and live life. And I don't need to see if my weight goes up or down 2 ounces each day or count any points or worry that I had too many burger patties today. If I'm hungry, I eat the burger patty. And I think it's kind of cool to be the female at the table wearing the heels, wearing the dress, feeling good, and eating the ribeye. I feel like the luckiest woman at any table.
Yeah, great for you. I love that. And I love how you're able to choose an identity for yourself that works. And I think the media message around or pressure that I think exists for women to eat salads and to shy away from meat is harmful in a lot of ways. So I love the work you're doing and the way you embrace it.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And Kelly, you know, it's been an awesome time talking to you and really appreciate you coming on today. I think you've given a lot of great advice for beginners and veterans alike on carnivore. Where can people find out more about you, or where can they get more guidance and help along the way if they need it?
So my blog, which has the journey from the very beginning, including before and after pictures, all of the blood work, cholesterol numbers, if you're interested in that kind of thing. That website is www.myzerocarblife.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Zeroing In on Health, which is Charles Washington's group that I help admin. And Instagram, Kelly_Hogan91. And I think that's it. I'm on Twitter, but not enough to even know what my Twitter handle is, to tell you the truth. I show up every once in a while. That's it.
That's great. I'll link to all of that in the show notes at carnivorecast.com. And thanks again for your time, Kelly. Really enjoyed the conversation. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.